Are we good? All right, cool. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live event for the journey of international students during COVID-19. I'm Kaelyn Ferris. I'm the president of Graduate Student Senate. I am also a third-year graduate student in the PhD program at the Department of Physics and Astronomy. And I've been helping the ISTF, the International Student Task Force, put together this fundraiser and help figure out how we can help international students while they try to struggle through the challenges that COVID-19 has put in front of them. Today, I'm joined with my co-host, Temiloluwa, who would be happy to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I hope we're all well and safe. My name is Temiloluwa Olubakinde, and I am an accounting and management information systems major here at Ohio University, and also the vice president of the International Student Union, as well as a member on the ISTF fundraising committee. Today, Kaelyn and I are the hosts for this event, which was created by the ISTF fundraising committee, as she has mentioned, to help raise funds for the international students on campus who are in dire need due to the pandemic.
Excellent. So we have a few panelists to join us. So part of the idea of why this started getting put together is that international students face a specific set of challenges because of their visa status, and it further complicates how they have to navigate the pandemic crisis, and sort of everything going on is, as we all know, everything is highly in flux. And so we wanted to create efforts to help help alleviate their challenges and show that we care about our international Bobcats and express our solidarity with the community. So there's a few teams that we want to thank for helping us put this together. I think, Temi, you have a better list than I do.
Yes. Well, this event would have not been possible without the help of certain individuals and organizations on campus to whom we have to give acknowledgement to. We would like to thank Ohio University, UCM, for putting together this live event. Thank you very much. ISFS, the International Student Union, the International Student Task Force Executive Committee members, Graduate Student Senate, and Student Senate, as well as many individuals who have come together and have provided support in helping the ISTF, the ISU, GSS Student Senate in their efforts to help advocate and fundraise for international students at Ohio University.
Excellent. So should I give a little bit more information about the campaign, or should we just go right in and introduce our panelists, and then we'll talk about the campaign?
I mean, we can talk about the campaign now, and then we can give our panelists time to introduce themselves.
Sure. Yeah. So this all started around March, when just when the coronavirus crisis was sort of hitting, and the university kind of went immediately online. It was identified among the leadership of a lot of the international student organizations that this is going to be a difficult thing to figure out how to face and how to help other international students navigate. And so their efforts have combined a lot of different avenues of work. They've looked into getting different kinds of grants. They've become part of the community. They've really kind of tried to integrate themselves into Athens as much as they can, and to really spread the word about the need of graduate students to everybody they possibly could. And their efforts have been tireless over the last 4 or 5 months. And so to give a little bit more information about who these people are, let's start introducing everyone. So I guess we could start with Faustina.
Hi, everybody. My name is Faustina Mensah. I am a third-year student, just entering my third year of the Higher Education and Student Affairs program. I am from Ghana, and I am currently the African Student Union. I'm the president, and I am also the chair of the executive committee of the International Student Task Force.
And would like to introduce our next panelist. So thank you so much, Faustina, for introducing yourself. Would like to introduce Majed, who's also an executive committee member on the ISTF board.
Hello, everyone. My name is Majid Zaili. I am from Saudi Arabia. This is my 4th year in the PhD program in the Department of Mathematics. Former ISU president and the former treasurer of American Mathematical Society, graduate chapter at Ohio University, the former vice president of the Muslim Student Association, And lastly, one of the co-founders of the ISDF.
Excellent. I always love whenever you introduce yourself and you always say that you're from math, I always get a little excited because I love having fellow STEM people to talk to. Our next panelist is Nicole Lopez. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. My name is Nicole Lopez. I'm from Ecuador, and I'm in my last year, which is the second year of my master's studies in hospitality and tourism.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for joining us during this event. Lastly, but not least, we'd like to invite Diane Cahill, the Director of International Services and Operations.
Hello, everyone. As Timmy said, my name is Diane Cahill. I'm the Director of International Services and Operations, which means that I am the Director of International Student and Faculty Services, and I also serve to support the portfolio of Global Affairs. And I also have the pleasure of being the advisor for International Student Union.
Excellent. So hopefully everyone has a little bit better idea of who our panelists are today. So I guess we can just sort of dive right into the little Q&A that we have prepared. And then after we're done with that, we'll just move on to the user entered questions or the viewer entered questions. If anyone is curious, there should be, I can't see the event page currently, but there should be a link to on the donation page to learn how to donate to this fund and get a little bit more information about how it's going to benefit the international students here at Ohio University. So I guess we'll get started, and we'll start with Nicole. I think we said we would start with. So Nicole, what was the thing that, so you reached out to us as sort of an international student that wanted to express their help with this campaign. Wanted to kind of give a little bit more of the human story about what international students are going through right now. What motivated you to reach out to us and to join?
Well, mainly it motivated me to make the problem more visible. I think that we as international students need to speak up and tell people about the challenges that we're facing. So it's okay to ask for help, it's okay to reach help, and also so more students are more interested in knowing what sources we have.
Thank you so much, Nicole. That's a great answer, and we're so glad and grateful that you were able to join us today and tonight. This question is directed to the e-board members, the e-committee members of ISDF. You guys have done such great work advocating for international students on campus. You've connected to different people, and we're so grateful. We just wanted to ask, why have you started this advocacy? Can you tell us more about it, and where are you now?
Thank you, Tammy, and I want to say thank you once again to everybody, and thank you, Nicole, for joining us. I will tackle how the advocacy began, and then Majid will pick it up and share where we are now. So the planner in me left me a bit restless as I was envisioning my realities for the summer, and I'm dating this back to March. And as I was going through that, the leadership side of me also drew my attention to the fact that this will not just be my reality, but the reality of my fellow international students and the community I serve. So I realized the problem was not only huge, but it was multifaceted and probably unsurmountable. And the more I thought about it, I realized we needed an all-hands-on-deck approach, which is students, the university, and the community to be able to manage the situation. So I started by reaching out to my fellow student leaders, Omar, who is my predecessor, ASU president, and then we reached out to Majid, and he was then the ISU president. And then to Hayasa, she was the prospective and is currently the ISU president. And then finally to Michael, who is also a former student leader and the former treasurer of Graduate Student Senate and our lead on data analytics. But most importantly, in the process of figuring out how to get organized, we sought ideas from our fellow international students, leaders, and after brainstorming on our agenda and strategy, the International Student Task Force was officially formed, and we, the current executive committee, were given the permission to lead the task force. And then from there, we started off by gathering a lot of information. As Kaelyn said, we started in March. So from March through to May, we used that whole phase to gather a lot of information to understand what was going on. And within that process, we did the needs assessment. And so I'll pass it on to Majid to highlight where the task force is now. So thank you, Temi, for that question.
Thank you so much, Faustina. And just a little bit of clarification. When we say ASU, we mean African Student Union. When we say ISU, we mean International Student Union. So as Faustina mentioned, we were concerned about the international student situation in the summer. So with Faustina's initiative, we started the conversation in forming the International Students Task Force. The task force conducted 2 surveys, one in April and one in June, to get a clear understanding on the magnitude of the problem. In line with the initial acknowledgement of the magnitude of the problem, the task force had strategic meetings with the city, the community members, Ohio University, and our student trustees, Student Senate, Graduate Student Senate, and the International Student Union to discuss practical ways to solve or manage this challenge. With this effort, we received the initial gift donation of $10,000 from the Athens County Foundation, which paved the way for creating the International Student Emergency Relief Fund, for which we are here to fundraise for our international Bobcats for the summer.
Excellent.
That's all.
So I guess we'll also move to Diane. So as the sort of faculty advisor, or one of the faculty advisors in all of this, what are some of the challenges that you've been able to identify working with international students with regard to this?
So for the summer, there are a multitude, I would say there are layers of issues. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that we recognize is as the university went online to protect students because of the coronavirus, that meant that there were less jobs available. So for many students who had on-campus jobs, those slowly phased out through spring, and then summer were not available. And for international students, part of the visa regulations require that they work on campus unless they have very specific work authorization. And so for most of our students, that meant that they did not have the ability to work. For our graduate students, they had the same problem. Like as we went through to get to summer, a lot of the graduate assistantships ended in spring. And so final payments had come to students in May. And so here we come with the same type of issue. There's not the ability to work on campus. Now, for many of our students, I think they had internships available. But again, as the country did its best to make sure they were protecting people from the COVID situation, those internships went away as well. So we have this layer. As we move forward in this country and did our best to support higher ed, the CARES Act was created, which was wonderful. Part of the CARES Act, unfortunately for international students, is that it was not available to them. And so that's just another layer. You know, there were funds available and that's wonderful. It's just that there was not available to our international students. And so we have these multiple layers of things that students are facing when they're trying to figure out how to function. The other thing to keep in mind is that as things happened in the United States, things were happening in other countries as well. And so, you know, students couldn't necessarily go home. Students couldn't necessarily have families send money because they may not have it. They may have the same types of struggles that many of the families in Athens have, but they're just in a different country. And so there are multiple things that the students are facing and, you know, almost nowhere to turn. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it most certainly does. Thank you, Diane. It's very crucial that we identify these challenges, as very few people know the struggles and the restrictions that international students have during their stay in various countries across the world, and more particularly here in the U.S. as we're talking about international students at Ohio University. So thank you so much for your insight. So this question is directed to Nicole. We know how this coronavirus pandemic has impacted international students globally here in the U.S. and at Ohio University. We wanted to get your own personal perspective, how this pandemic has impacted your summer, and how it's a two-part question, how the pandemic has impacted your summer and how this donation will impact you, and why people should, donate to the fundraising efforts.
Okay, thanks for your question. Actually, I have faced a lot of the challenges that Ayan was talking about. I was hoping that I could get a summer job. Even without the pandemic, this is very hard. There are no many positions available, many spaces or positions available, but with the pandemic, they were almost reduced to zero. So I was trying to get one, but I looked for it in the university website, but there were none. I think there were one or two, but we're talking about a lot of students. Second, I have been planning a lot. I saved during my whole year. I saved a lot of money, or well, what I could, to cover at least my rent and groceries. I think those were the two main points that I had to be taken care of. I was hoping also to maybe get an optional practical training position, but those cost money and there are no many available. Just like internships, most of those positions got canceled or something like that. And I think one problem that really affects the students in general actually is the cost of rent. Rent is pretty high in Athens. And I've been very resourceful. I've been trying to look for the cheapest place. Actually, I think I have one of the cheapest places in Athens, but I know also that is not the case of all the students. Over hundreds of dollars are in rent, or most of the income that the student got when they were working are just meant for rent. So I think those are the main challenges that I've been having. I hope that a lot of people donate because it is really important for international students to know that they are part of the community. They are considered valuable. They deserve these opportunities because they are doing amazing jobs. They are researching, they are working. So I think it's something that they deserve. Second of all, I think that also they become more included in a sense of the community that we're having here. And most important, because I think that it would motivate, if someone donates, it would motivate more people to donate. It would increase the number of people who are aware of the situation and who also want to help. And lastly, I think it's important to donate because in the future, we are going to have the same, probably the same problems, and we can help. And we know that if someone helped you, you're going to pay that back, even if it is for another person. So I think that's pretty important.
Excellent. Agreed on all fronts. Really good. That was really good, Nicole. Yeah, no, like that's exactly why all of this was put together, was because like we really want to make sure to emphasize that like the international students here are an integral part of our community, and that they matter to all of us. So thank you. That was really great. I'll go for ISTF. So Nicole kind of like gave a little bit of a purview of her experiences. Can you, either Faustine or Majed, kind of go over the results of your data gathering, the sort of like kind of like what is the general like purview of what international students are currently facing?
Thank you, Kaelyn. Thank you, Nicole. I think Nicole and Diane, they've given the good background to the story, which summarizes our survey. So as Majid mentioned, we conducted 2 surveys, one in April and the other in June. So I'm going to give a quick overview of what we gathered from the June survey because it's the most latest one. So in all, we had 113 of our international Bobcats who filled out the survey. And I want to mention that this number only represents 14% of the 600 international students who fall under the financial need or bracket that we are raising funds for. So I want everybody to kindly keep that in mind. It's very important. So all these figures that I'm mentioning is technically just 14% representation of the total number of students in need. So from our survey, I'm just going to quickly state figures here so that everybody knows that these are hard facts that we worked with. We had 82.3% of respondents who had lost their summer internships. We had over 80% who have secured leases in Athens from July to date, from what do you call it, for the summer period, sorry, so from May all the way through to September. We also have, from the survey, the average rent before utilities is $525. Hence, we've been advocating for the summer period, which runs through to September 2020. And so the total estimates need in terms of rent per student is $2,100. The total amount needed to help with rent for the 113 respondents who filled the ISTF survey, it is at least $59,325. And this is per month. And all these are average figures. And then overall, if we put everything together, the estimated based on the survey, we need for the 113 respondents, once again, is $441,604, which will be required to support 4 months of rent, utilities, and food, once again, for 14% of the need. So it's also important that our survey was also covered by or filled by both undergraduates and grad students who graduated. What is important, and I would want to reiterate, Diane already said it, is that because of our immigration residency status, we are automatically disqualified or exempted from receiving direct federal grants like the stimulus, the the programs under the CARES Act, and even the HAPCAP rental assistance program. So in a nutshell, it's everything that Nicole mentioned, that we all international students are technically down to zero. We do not usually, and it is the status quo now, we are not receiving stipends. We all have signed leases to pay, and we are paying at least a little over $500, close to $600 a month. And so we are all, even with rent only before any other thing, we are all in need of at least, in total, using this $450,000 US, and this is even just for 14%, and that's what the survey told us. Back to you, Kaelyn.
Okay. Majid, is there anything that we missed in there, or is that pretty much all we had?
That's pretty much it.
All right, cool. Thanks, Faustina. I think that sort of like helps kind of give a good idea of like the scope of the problem, because as sort of has been the theme of this conversation so far, international students have to navigate like sort of like a many different kinds of layers of challenges because of all of this, because they don't have access to the HAPCAP funding, they don't have access to the CARES Act funding, they have work restrictions, and it's really hard for them to figure out where their bills are going to get paid and how they're going to acquire the funding they need to sort of stay here comfortably and to remain a part of our community. And so it's really important that you all donate to this, because the need is a lot. And so any amount that you can contribute helps. I keep trying to find the link. I will eventually say how much we earned, but I think there is a link there to the donation page that you can check to see how much has been raised. But I believe it is over $17,000 so far. Which isn't to include the other various funding sources and a few other aid programs that the ISTF has been able to figure out and help secure for international students. So Diane, what in as sort of like the main faculty or staffing the ISFS, what has been your role in helping the work of ISTF?
So the International Student Task Force has been really leading. My job has been to support them. So one of the things that I've tried to do is to provide guidance as they've needed or asked for it, to provide parallel data when they have, again, asked or needed it, to advocate on behalf of students just generally. That's part of what ISFS does as a team. And then to be there to support students generally when there are questions. So I really would say that the biggest responsibility on my part is to make sure that I'm there as a support person generally, and it's been the same for the International Student Task Force. One of the benefits of working together is really to be able to talk to each other and bounce things off of each other and say, okay, you know, what is the right next step for us to work on together, and then to be there as a support person when they've had their meetings with different community members, and just to be able to share some of the things that I was sharing here about the challenges that students face so that we can help to get the word out when they're having those essential conversations across the university and the community.
Thank you, Diane. We're so grateful for your help throughout the entire period in the entire summer. I know this as being the Vice President of ISU. She's been of tremendous help, always providing support and advice and guidance where needed. She's always there. She's like our backbone, I would say. So this is for Nicole. Can you help us understand, like, I think you touched on this, how people why people should donate to the to the International Students Fund, but from your perspective, I know you said from your perspective, can you share how you think this would help with the general body? And I think this is also a question that Diane and Majed could also answer, but could you share how, not just from your own perspective, with the general body, the international student, how you think this money will impact them?
Yeah, sure. I think the most important thing that it would impact, the real impact would be motivation. From my perspective, if someone is showing me how much they care about us, I think there's going to be encouragement to keep working and doing all the work that we do and just do it better and show them that their support is for a reason. I think also it would be a big relief so I can focus on my work again too. So it's kind of like not just impacting the financial part, but also the mental health of a lot of students. Again, from my perspective, it would be a really relief also for my family, because in my country, things are out of control, to be honest, a little bit in the case of the COVID. So they are struggling, and trying to help me is gonna make them feel worse too. So it's kind of like you're not helping only the student, but you're also helping the family. And finally, I think that it would impact a lot on the future. I mean, you know that you have this opportunity and you're gonna just keep going and look for more opportunities and be more responsible with your money too, because we have to plan those things. And I think that would be my impact too.
Thank you, Nicole. Diane and Majed, please, could you give us an answer?
I can go if you want me to. So I second Nicole when she said, when you receive help, you try to do the same for the people who's coming after you. I remember when I came here to the United States, when I arrived to Columbus, a friend of mine picked me from the airport from Columbus to Athens. And I asked him, do I need to pay you anything? And he was like, no, do the same for the people who's going to come next. So, and I know international students will do the same. They will try to pay it back to the Athens community. And as mentioned earlier, because of the visa regulations, international students cannot work off campus unless they have proper paperwork. And the pandemic caused the cancellation of many international students' internships. This summer, we have Nicole here as an example. So they are left with absolutely no source of money or no source of income. Therefore, they are struggling to pay the rent, health insurance, and the food. And also, I should mention that some of the international students are here with their families. So donating to the International Students Emergency Relief Fund will make a huge difference in their lives. Moreover, donating to this fund will indirectly help the local businesses because the students will use the money they will receive from OU to pay the rent, buy groceries from a local store, and I do believe this financial aid will be a great help to the international Bobcats as well as the Athens community as whole. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Majed.
So the only other thing that I would add is to back up what Nicole said about the health of students. Like, you know, Majed and Nicole are both right that there's big financial strains on students. But I think one of the things that everyone can understand is that when you have that multiple stress, you know, I can't get access to this, I can't pay my bill. Like, there is no student who doesn't want to make sure that their bills are paid. There is no student that wants to hurt a landlord or wants to not be able to fulfill their obligations. I think that adds a layer of stress and a layer of worry, and you know, it impacts their ability to be a student. It impacts their ability to, you know, possibly be a parent if that's what they're trying to do, or even be a friend, you know. So, and we all understand that when things are stressful in your life, it's really hard to kind of keep going. And so one of the things that is nice about this opportunity to donate is that it will help, and students will be able to have some sort of relief so that they can keep going, and that's important for everyone. So that's the only thing that I would add.
Those are all great points that have been mentioned by Nicole, Majed, and Diane. Thank you so much for your perspective. I also know this is an international student too. I second everything they said. It's true, and we do think this is how the money will impact international students, as well as individually students on campus and local businesses across Athens. This is directed to ISTF. After all the work you've been doing, which has been great, by the way, how have you been able to stay persistent to solve this problem, this obstacle that international students face? I know for myself, I've had a little bit of hiccups here and here, but you know, the impact generally it's a lot. And I was wondering, how do you keep on? How do you stay day to day working, meeting with people, and advocating for international students?
Yeah. Thanks, Temi, and I asked Majid if I can go first on this one because it has been a lot of hard work, and I would want to start off by saying, for me personally, I have stayed more energized and persisted through because of the commitment, the hard work, the care, and the support from my co-executives or co-leaders, Majid, Omar, Hayasa, and Michael. We have all worked great as the lead. Once again, most importantly, I think for starters, it was that support from the international student leaders who formed the International Students Task Force. Just the way they received the idea, and we all strategized and they energized us. But most importantly for me, working closely with Majid and Omar and Hayasa and Michael and their commitment to hard work, we meet on a daily basis from 10 p.m. all the way to 3 a.m. and we could go on, and we have daily meetings, you know. So, and like you said, we've had a fair share of hiccups, you know, but we've edged ourselves on, we've not agreed all the time, but we've kept our eyes on the reason, and we keep reminding ourselves the why. We keep reminding ourselves why we are in this position, and most importantly, I would want to acknowledge that we are also impacted. But back to what Nicole said, our reason was that sometimes, and most times, we feel that our community members know But honestly, with my engagements, our engagements, even as a task force, we realized they didn't know. And so that has been one heartwarming thing. And that goes back to my second source of energy, which has come from the overwhelming love and care and support from our community members, churches in Athens, the Athens City leadership, the university leadership, staff of Ohio University, and our student trustees. You know, if we didn't have that support, if we didn't have that attention, we would have given up by now. But seeing how much everybody changed and supported us the moment they got to understand our predicament, we had no choice than to keep going, even if we were bent out. And we've been there, you know. It's also important that I acknowledge the more, as I said, we spent a lot of time as the task force, as the executive committee. We spent a lot of time doing information gathering, talking to stakeholders, to Diane, our leaders. And through that, the more we had conversations, the more we realized the reality on the ground, and how the more we understood the regulations and the exemptions. And we realized that our only source of financial aid technically is the universities. And once again, that's not realistic considering the need. And so we were more, we decided that we will continue and we will stay committed irrespective until we find something pragmatic. And lastly, but most importantly for me, one thing that, or the group of people that have pushed this and pushed my energy throughout this whole process has been our international Bobcats who made time to fill the ISTF surveys, because we kept getting, we need a more comprehensive picture. And if they hadn't filled out that survey, and we know how we are all survey fatigued, right? But to have, I'll tell you, the first survey we had about 60 people fill, and to have 113 students fill the second survey in 3 days, it spoke volumes to us. And when we got the response, we realized there is no turning back and there's no stopping. But I think it's important for me once again to reiterate that this wouldn't have been possible, or we wouldn't have been where we are today, if we didn't have support from each other as an executive committee, most importantly, from everybody in Athens, actually. And so I am just grateful. When you see so much selflessness, you have no choice than to keep going. And they've kept us, and we hope that we will continue to finish this race. Hopefully it has been a good race. It's been a long, tiring one, but I want to once again appreciate everybody, but most importantly, the executive committee, because it's been through thick and thin, but we've pushed through. Majid, over to you.
Thank you so much, Faustina. I second Faustina and everything she said. The support from the executive committee of the task force is just awesome. And I disagree with Faustina. We agree all the time because we're in a live show. We agree all the time. We don't have any disagreements unless we're off the show. So the team, we have been talking daily for the past 4 months, and we're keeping each other up to get results. And also observing the hard situations some of my close friends are in, especially with no source of income. You realize someone has to do something, and you cannot stop until you get something. And we know that there's a hope, and we know there's something good will come out of it. That's why we're keeping up and motivate each other. The encouragement and the support from the Athens community members is awesome. Again, the Graduate Student Senate, Kaelyn and the VP Amal, the Student Senate, the Jenny, Danielle, and Richard, the International Student Union, Temi and Hayata. The support we get from them is overwhelming and is giving us so much hope that we will get something good out of this movement. So thank you so much to you guys. So that's my answer.
Excellent. Thank you so much, you two.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. So we have a couple more minutes for the sort of questions that we were going to ask, and then we have a couple of viewer asked questions that we'll ask as well. But I think the first thing that I kind of want to ask is, so you all, for the ISDF, so you all gave a pretty good kind of like purview of what keeps you motivated, right? To sort of like see how wonderfully selfless the community can be, which I think is an amazingly wonderful aspect of Athens. So I guess my question is, because a lot of the work you do is not just this fundraiser, right? You've done a lot of things like within the community. You've worked to sort of like secure different kinds of grants, and I was wondering if you could all, the two of you from ISDF, could give a little bit more detail on what other things has been going on in the background.
Margaret, you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll throw you under the bus.
Thank you, Kaelyn. And I appreciate that you brought that up. And yes, so as you realize, our focus largely was on the rent and food insecurity of all international Bobcats. So our efforts have largely been to see how best we could find some form of legal advocacy. We were looking at tackling the rental problem, but most importantly, the food problem. And I would want to say we have an advisory committee that we call the Friends of International Task Force, and it is made up of the Lutheran Church and former Peace Corps volunteers and some university staff who form the committee and our task force. And through that task force, we do a lot of deliberating, but also they've also helped us to reach out to community to increase the donations to what we have. We have the Bobcats, the Cats Cupboard, which is a food pantry for all students at Ohio University. And it's being managed by our Division of Student Affairs and Kathy Fall. And through this advocacy, we have received so much food donations, which has been awesome. And even some cash donations have been sent to Cat's Cupboard. And so honestly, with the way the community has responded, it has seemed like it's helped a lot with the food insecurity. But I would also want to acknowledge that majority of us, including myself, we have transportation challenges because of the COVID. To the way the Cat's Cupboard was open, now it's had to go through a different structure. So there are some logistic and access challenges, but otherwise we are grateful that we still have it open and it's available to our students. We are receiving lots of appreciation notes from students and even from Kathy and the Cat's Cupboard regarding the donation. So that has been the biggest thing. I would also want to mention, in line with the legal advocacy, we've had so much support from the South, or even guidance, let me say, from the Athens Mediation Services and from the Office of Community Engagement at Ohio University, and also from the Southeastern Ohio Legal Services. So yeah, we basically, like I said, a lot of our activities have been with having strategic meetings with stakeholders, information gathering, but the outcome of all these meetings have always been geared towards getting pragmatic ways of helping us, like Diane said, and Diane has been a huge support in helping us navigate everything, because you can't even just give a gift card to an international student. It comes with its own legal connotations. And it's just been a blessing having Diane there, because she knows what the regulations are, because even in so doing, we could find ourselves in trouble, or even the people giving, and we don't want to do that. So I think it's important that we appreciate how much a lot of what we've done has relied on a lot of information gathering, a lot of brainstorming, because it is murky. It is not an easy road, and but through that we've been able to tackle a lot of the food challenges and the donations to Cat Cupboard, and hopefully we can have more conversation regarding the legal aspect. Our biggest challenge now, I would kindly want to mention, is that under the CARES Act, there is an exemption for late fees that have been waived for federally funded apartments. Okay, so once again, for us international students, we are exempted. So, and for majority of us, including myself, where I stay, they give us up to the 4th of the month. And then from the 5th of the month, it accrues $25 late fees every day till the 30th or 31st of the month. So that's the biggest thing that we still have on our plate, where we are trying to see if we can get the Athens City, or we can see how we can have conversations so that late fees will be waived, so that students will not feel pressured if they are not able to raise the money within the 1st and the 4th. Once again, noting that they have no source of income. So generally, this is all that we have been focusing on: the legal advocacy, the rent, and financial aid bit, and tackling the food insecurity bit. Does that answer the question, Kaelyn?
I think so. I think that was wonderful. Just to make sure that there wasn't anything missed, Majid, do you have anything to add, or do you think Fausti did a good job?
She did great.
Excellent.
Sorry,
Fausti, you're a rock star. You're just doing all of this.
She is.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have.
My said I should do a lot of the talking, so he already is telling me what to do.
Right, exactly. A lot of collaboration happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a couple minutes left. We have at least 2 viewer questions that we wanted to ask. So the first one, I think, is sort of like most pressing to international students. So in all of this sort of like money raising and donations and stuff, how do international students actually apply for this, and how do they start getting the aid that the ISTF is planning on dispersing?
That's a Diane question.
You wanted me to answer that question. So we actually have a page on the International Student and Faculty Services website to have that has a link to a survey for students to complete, and we've already had, let me see, 205 students apply. And so we've already started to work through that process, but it is available on the ISFS website, and I'll try to put it in the chat so they can put it on the live stream while we're talking. But that is how students get access to apply.
Diane, you should add that you just opened the applications on Monday.
Wait, say that again, Fausti, I can't hear you.
I was saying, you said you had 205 applications, and I'm saying we should add that we just opened applications on Monday, right?
Oh,
that is true.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's Wednesday, so if it doubles, our math people can help us. We will have about 400 Friday.
If anyone needed evidence that the need is here, the need is here.
Yeah.
So please go donate if you can.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Faustina, for pointing that out. Sorry, I was a bit off. My internet's acting up. And this other question that was asked by Mary Catherine, this is for Faustina too. Is there a place where the information from the task force survey were stored and where they can have access to the results?
Yes, please. If you kindly send us an email at istf@ohio.edu, we will be glad. We have all that in our advocacy brief, and so we will be glad to share that details with anybody who needs it. And you can reach us. We will respond accordingly. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. It seems like we don't have any answer. Kaelyn, do you have any? Yeah. Updates?
So not exactly an update, but I've got one more question that I can think of before we begin wrapping up. So the donations are happening. Hopefully people are donating. The people are applying to get the funding. What is next for ISTF in trying to figure all of this out? What are you planning on working next?
Who wants to go first? Oh, Kaelyn, that's okay. So let me put it like this. And I know we've had this conversation. So we said that now we are transitioning into phase 3, which is my favorite phase, and we want to call it the outreach phase. And I believe like it started. So we believe we've wrapped up advocacy in a bit, and we are moving more into the outreach phase where, as we mentioned, even though on the platform we see the 50,000 there, we already mentioned using our survey, we need even at 450,000. It's a bit huge for me to mention. So the need is huge. And so for us, as a task force, we are actually transitioning into pushing this fundraiser. That's our priority for now. We will keep pushing. We'll be sending out letters, once again, summarizing where everybody can send donations, cash donations, food donations to Cats Cupboard and their schedule. And then I think the last thing that we have that is still pending technically is to have a bit more conversations to see how best we can negotiate or get guidance on how we can tackle the late fees challenge. Because as Diane mentioned, if we have 200 students applying, it depends on how much we have. And also today is the 8th already. So we've already moved into that phase where late fees have kicked in. So even if there's access for some financial aid, there's still that challenge where it will be accruing. It will create litigation problems for our students. And we do not want that to happen. Back to the well-being aspect, we are very careful because the pandemic is already unprecedented. Everything is challenging for all of us, and double of a challenge for us international students with our families being far away. Some of us are alone, and so we don't want to put our students in a situation where we will compromise their well-being and mental health. So we don't want to end there as a task force or as an executive committee. We want to still have conversations and seek more guidance, how we can have conversations with our landlords so that they might consider waiving late fees so that students will feel at ease to find money to pay. Also noting that it may also affect their credit score and how everything is related to credit here. So for us, that will be our focus. I need to also mention that the whole task force process, the advocacy process, has brought about emerging tasks. It's been very emerging. We have quite a handful of administrative things to follow up with. And so the task force or the executive committee will be focusing on how we will finish off and attend to all the administrative things. I think it's also important to mention that we are all students. So it's about juggling, the advocacy piece, which we love, and we are glad as student leaders, which is important. And I want to highlight that I am so proud to be a student leader in this trying time, because what it has taught me, it has shown me who our true leaders are. And honestly, I have no option than to continue to be selfless in my service to Ohio University and to my community at large. And so we will continue pushing till we make sure that everything is set in stone, hopefully till the first stipend comes in September, fingers crossed. So I think generally that's what we have on our plate. Majid, is there anything you have to add?
You're doing great, Faustina.
Thank you. You should add something, Majid, just in case I forgot something.
There's nothing in top of my head right now. You're doing great.
Thank you.
But if I want to add something, the team is trying to do we're trying to do our homework. We're not trying just to say, hey, give us money. Oh, we just need money. Oh, no. So we're trying to secure food. We're trying to find other ways to help the international students. And we ask what we need. So that's a need. That's not like, not luxury thing or something. That's a real need.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, so I guess we have just a couple of minutes for us to wrap up. So I'm going to go over the donation page and sort of like give shout outs to the main campaign heroes and kind of share information about how much has been raised so far. So if you go to the donation page that's linked below the chat on the live stream, we've raised so far $17,776, which is phenomenal. I think that's so great. And that's just been in, it went live just like a few weeks ago. And so that's just seeing the outpouring of support has been really, really great to see. And so, I
just want to say thank you to each and everyone donated. And every penny counts, and thank you so much.
Exactly. And I'll give shout outs to the campaign heroes that are listed on the page. So there's, these are the people who have donated, who have been the most helpful in sort of like helping with these donations and getting it. So going off the list, we have Ann Braxton, Edward and Charlotte Chow, Chow Yang Lee, Dawn Flournoy, Mark and Wanda Weinberg, Catherine Kropf, Judy B. McGinn, Joseph Shields, and David Kuntz, who I know personally. And they were one of the first ones to be campaign heroes on this. So it was amazing to see them just absolutely jump onto the opportunity to help international students. They're the advisors for the Graduate Student Senate and have heavy involvement with the Graduate College. And so they have also been extremely helpful in figuring all of this out and getting it together. Temi, is there anything else that you want to add about before we all say goodbye?
I just want to say thank you to everyone on here and also to the organizations that have come together. I don't know many times I can say thank you or we can say thank you, but thank you, thank you, thank you. We're so grateful. We're so thankful to every single person who's donated and to the people who are attending this event, our audience. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad and so grateful to have your support and to know that we're loved and supported here in the U.S. and at Ohio University and in the Athens community. So thank you so much. Do our panelists have anything else?
I have one last thing. So I remember when we started this as a task force, we didn't know where this is about to go, but we had hope and we know there's something that will come out of it. So when I go back home, I will take this with me and tell my fellows over there I was part of a university and a community that cares about the international students. And just want to say, I am proud to be a Bobcat, and I know all the international students proud to be Bobcat.
Excellent. Wonderful.
And also, I would like to say thank you, Diane. Thank you, LJ Edmonds.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
And thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. I think we'll wrap everyone. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. This was really great to talk. Please donate if you can. I hope everyone else has a wonderful Wednesday evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.